Today we're at Lulworth, but we're not going to Lulworth Cove. The Lulworth car park is looking quite empty. We're way out of season. It's nearly the end of November, so it's, you know, this place is rammed in the summer, but not now. We're not going to Lulworth Cove though. We're going up there and over those hills to Durdle Door and Scratchy Bottom. So that's the path we're taking, up across this hill here. I think we've got quite a few ups and downs across here. Actually, the weather up there is looking a little bit weathery. Got the walking spoon with me today because of the amount of up and down we're going to have to do. It's quite a steep hill there, but off we go. Quite windy today, and yeah, I think we are about to get a little sprinkler rain. So we've got to walk up this rather well-made path. And up over the top up there. So already got quite a good view of Lulworth Cove down there. Not looking nearly so inviting in this weather. Beautiful cove, but looks a little bit blustery and grey today. So just over there is Dungy Head, another weird sounding place name. We visited that in a previous video. You can go down from Dungy Head, walk along the beach all the way to Durdle Door at low tide, but we're going over the top today and I just felt a few spots of rain. So a good view of the Isle of Portland from here, across there through the sea mist. But yeah, we got a few spots of rain, but blue sky is on its way. A little bit higher up now. That is Dungy Head down there, and the weather is being all dramatic like. Beautiful winter day. I suppose is it technically late autumn? Anyway, end of November. The sea is being a little bit wild. The rain is falling out there across the water. We've had a few little spots. The wind is blowing like crazy. There's a lost glove on the ground. All the things. Anyway, still got to go up a bit further before we get over the top of this hill. Eva's very vocal today. I think there's a dog barking down there somewhere. I think she's talking to that dog. So there we are at the top, and looking down on houses and Lulworth and Kimmeridge beyond. Eva is very, very talkative today. So over this top now, I wonder what we're going to see here. Will we be able to see all the way along to Durdle Door? See cliffs. It is so blowy up here. I think somewhere down here is Man o' War Bay, which is another beautiful little cove. I don't know if you can get an impression of how much the wind is blowing here. You probably can. It is quite blustery, but not cold. It's coming in off the sea and it's a warm wind. Durdle Door Coast Path. Well, that's interesting. That's an old marker stone that told you to go off that way, but they've closed this bit off, presumably because the cliff is eroding back. So that one is half a mile longer, avoiding steep and often slippy section of coast path. We have no choice but to avoid the slippy coast path, but here we go. So beautiful scenery, isn't that nice? So somewhere just over there beyond Durdle Door is a place that came second place in a competition for the UK's worst named location. It's called Scratchy Bottom. And nobody seems to really know exactly why it's called Scratchy Bottom. It might just be because it was covered with thorns and thistles and brambles, or it's been theorised that it might be because the soil is so poor here. So we're on top of chalk. There's a very thin soil, not particularly fertile, on top of chalk, and so it's been theorised that it was called Scratchy Bottom because you had to scratch an existence out of the soil. I think we'll never know the truth. I suspect the first explanation is probably the correct one. It was probably overgrown with brambles and thorns. So down here I think we've got Man of War Bay, and you can see evidence of the tilted limestone strata down there, and the folded strata, and then this ridge here in the sea is part of that tilted strata. It's the same thing back at Stair Hole, a little bit back towards Lulworth. There is this tilted limestone shelf that has provided a barrier and made there's a little gap in it down there which has formed a cove. It is incredibly blowy today. Now we could have just parked here. This is the Durdle Door car park, but where's the fun in that? So we're approaching a signpost, a finger post. I think that's the path down there to the, oh yeah, I can just see Durdle Door emerging from behind that headland there. So we're going to go down there, have our lunch, and then if we've got time and if the weather's favourable, we'll go on to Scratchy Bottom, which is not much to see there, I don't think. In case you're wondering, the place that won first place in that competition, where Scratchy Bottom came second, the first place winner was Shitterton, which is also in Dorset. No fires or barbecues because the grass here will just catch fire, although not so much in this weather. It's always worth having a look at these signs just to see, make sure we're acquainted with the potential dangers and rules. For example, ground nesting birds, please keep dogs on a lead. So we will. So yeah, off to the side here there will be various species of ground nesting birds, and dogs would disturb those nests. They probably won't be laying eggs, I don't think, at this time of year, but I'm not an ornithologist, so I wouldn't know. Quite a steep path here. Glad of the walking spoon. So, Man of War Bay, and perhaps a slightly better view of that folded and upturned limestone or sedimentary layers down there. There are steps to get down to this cove. I think we might go down there later on, but for the moment, onward round to Durdle Door viewpoint. It's incredibly windy, but it's an onshore breeze, so I'm not in any danger of being blown over the cliff. A little bit of botany here. This is Alexander's coastal edible. That's wild cabbage there, ancestor of a lot of our cultivated brassicas. This is more of it here, I think. Yeah, so if we just have a look at the leaves here, you can kind of get the idea of how that was developed into cabbages and Brussels sprouts and broccoli and cauliflower and kale and all of the Brassica oleracea group. So many different vegetables have this wild plant in their ancestry. Kind of amazing. A little bit of shelter here. Well, I suspect when we get over there at the viewpoint it's going to be blowy again. Right, just coming down to the viewpoint here for Durdle Door. And we can go over that way to Swire Head and White Nose. But let's take a look at Durdle Door. There it is. Right, heading down to the beach now. Eva's excited because it's a beach. There'll be stones and they'll be digging. Yeah, it's closed because reasons. So this is a World War II pillbox here, and unfortunately it's been undercut and it's moving, so they've closed this off. And I think the path down to the beach is also closed, but for the same reason. Can't get down onto Man o' War Beach. So that's Durdle Door, nice and close up for you. Is that a kestrel up there? Bird of prey of some sort. Just hovering on the... Oh, and the crows are going to come and give it a hard time. No, maybe not. Just soaring on the onshore breeze up there. Amazing. So all the birds are doing that. Nice bit of updraft there where the onshore breeze is hitting the cliffs. So, traditional pasty in view of Durdle Door. How about that? You can have a bit in a minute. I know, but it's mine. The beach is covered with these fronds of, I think it's oarweed or something like that, but seaweed. Cuttlebone there, driftwood. The beach is mostly composed of flints. Eva. Eva. Eva's favourite rock. There probably would be fossil urchins coming out of the chalk here, but I haven't seen any. There are sadly quite a few bits of plastic waste on the beach. We'll pick a few of those up and get them into a bin. Eva! The sea is a beautiful colour today. Kind of pale turquoise. Possibly from the particles of chalk in the water dispersing the light. Rayleigh scattering. I would love to go and sift these pebbles down here, but the waves come all the way up to this band of gravel here, so I'm not going to go down there and get my boots wet. We've got a bit further to go, so we're going to go back up on top of the cliffs, across over to Swire Head and Scratchy Bottom. Just have to stop and have a look at this because there's a few things to look at here. First is that is wild carrot. This is wild cabbage. So we already mentioned this is wild cabbage, the ancestor of many of our cabbage varieties. I dare say we could pick some of those leaves and they'd be quite nice to eat. Maybe a little bit bitter, but I'm not here to forage today. And this is sea beet, and I've got to say this is the most luxuriant and large leafed specimen of sea beet I think I've ever seen. Let me just give you my hand for scale. Look at the size of those leaves. So this plant is the ancestor of beetroot, sugar beet. It's also the ancestor of perpetual spinach, chard, and probably a few other vegetables I can't think of right now. And sea beet, really, really good edible. I'm tempted to pick some of this, but we're going home for soup today, so I think we'll just marvel at it and leave it. But that is the nicest and biggest and fleshiest and most luxuriant specimen of sea beet I think I've ever seen. So that's where we're going over there, Swire Head. Well, it's still breezy, but it's turned out to be a really beautiful day. I think the risk of rain has now passed. We did get a few little spots, but I don't think we're going to get any rain now until later this afternoon. So we've got time to complete our objective, which I think is just over the brow of this hill, which is to get to Scratchy Bottom. Of course, the bottom part of the name is not a mystery. It's very common for valleys to be called something bottom in England. Anyway, on we go. You can see in the cliff face there the different strata. So you've got a very chalky underlayer. You can see a band of flints going across that cliff, and then more sandy limestone on the top. I'll be slightly disappointed if we don't find a sign today that has the word Scratchy Bottom on it that we can take a picture of. So Ringstead off that way 3.5 miles, Whitenose 2 miles, Newlands Farm and Campsite up this way 3/4 mile. Same directions on that way there, but behold, this is Scratchy Bottom. I'm, like I say, mildly disappointed there isn't a sign. There should be a sign here, shouldn't there? But there it is. Welcome to Scratchy Bottom. And you can perhaps understand, I suppose in years gone by, those gorse and bramble clumps might have clothed this entire valley. There's a little clump of brambles over there you could go and scratch your bottom on if you were so disposed. But there you go. Welcome to Scratchy Bottom. Oh yeah, well, here we are. Burdock, a very scratchy plant. This plant always kind of reminds me of Dr. Seuss, the "What was I scared of" story. I ran and found a brickle bush. I hid myself away. I got brickles in my britches, but I stayed there anyway. I'm just going to have a look at where the path goes here and up the side, because I think I see a sign on that post. So if we're lucky. So no, my hopes were in vain. The Warren, Lulworth Cove, Ringstead and Weymouth. No sign for Scratchy Bottom. There is this danger sign here. It doesn't say what kind of danger, but that does look like that might have been there a while. So danger of unspecified variety. Anyway, there we go. That is the place that won second prize in the worst named location in England. So now we've got to go up a really steep and rather unmade path. So that is Scratchy Bottom. There is another bottom on the other side of Swire Head, which we're going to head up and over, because there's a path we can take along there and then along this ridgeway, and that won't be so much up and down. So I think we'll take a circular route back to Lulworth inland. Since we've seen the lovely sights on the coastal path, Durdle Door down there, Lulworth you can just about see over the top of the rocks there. So anyway, onward and upward to the top of Swire Head now. And this path is about as steep as you can go without needing steps. Oh gosh, so that was quite a climb. And there is Scratchy Bottom down there, and here's a scratchy plant, gorse or furze in flower, because there's always gorse in flower. Kissing's out of season when gorse is out of flower. I am slightly out of breath. That was probably the steepest hill you can possibly climb without stairs, and there was a lot of it. Anyway, yeah, we're going to go back along the top here. We might get some nice majestic views down these valleys or bottoms to the sea. Okay, here we are on the top of Swire Head. And this is where we're going to leave the coastal path and head inland along that track there. So, bye bye to the seaside. Let's head inland. So whenever you see a gate like this and signs like that, it's an indication that there is a public right of way across this land. A sign here saying cows here now shut the gate. I find that really unlikely. How would they operate that with their hooves? Gorse in not full flower, but certainly plenty of flowers on it. I'm not going to try to get my nose close to them. They smell delightfully of coconut, like coconut suntan lotion. But when the wind is blowing the bushes around like this, I'm not going to try and put my nose close to smell them. So a scratchy plant, another scratchy plant, brambles here, blackberries, really thorny plant. And yeah, I imagine that's probably why this place just over the brow of this hill here was called Scratchy Bottom, probably full of brambles and gorse before it was turned into pasture. So fantastic views from up here. All of these valleys and hills. These valleys apparently are not glacial. The ice sheet I don't think ever came down as far as Dorset. So these are, I think, periglacial features. So these are valleys that were carved out by the melting of the ice sheets. As the ice age was ending and the ice sheet was retreating, all of that stuff that happened there drained off this way, and so these are periglacial features, I believe. Top of the hill now, and there's a marker stone here, and I just had a little look over the back of this stone, and Scratchy Bottom! There we go, marker stone for Scratchy Bottom. We saw one. So well inland now, and we're going to head back along this ridgeway, which I think will take us more or less back to where we parked, which is just the other side of those hills over there. There's some sort of viewpoint thing up there. I think I might just go and have a look at that. So yeah, there was an information board here, but unfortunately it's so covered in lichen and it's kind of delaminated. All you can see is the word Scratchy Bottom, the formation of a historic landscape, and something down here about horseshoe vetch. So yeah, that's about all I can see on that. I did put a little bit of water on there just to see if I could wash that off a bit, but yeah, that's the best we're going to get in terms of a sign, I think. So farewell to Scratchy Bottom, and we've got to head back this way across this field now to get back into Lulworth. Now you may have noticed Eva's off the lead, which I wouldn't always do in pasture like this because of livestock. She will chase sheep, and she really shouldn't, and farmers have the right to shoot dogs if they're chasing sheep. However, if we enter a field and I can see all of the perimeter of the field and see that there's no livestock in there, and as long as she's going to stay close, which she will, then it's okay to let her off. In that situation she will stay close, especially when the grass is long. She doesn't walk through long grass. So yeah, if I can see the full perimeter of the field and see that there's no livestock in the field, then she's usually okay to just walk to heel off the lead. So it'll be different for this field, because although I can see the hedge up there, I can't tell what's over the brow of that hill or that edge there. So there could be just sheep over there. So Eva will go on the lead when we enter this field. Just heading back past Durdle Door car park inland. Nice little bit of woodland here near the campsite. It's nice to be out of the wind for a moment. I will show you the route we've taken on Google Maps. I'll draw the route and measure the distance for you. That should be on the screen now. So yeah, that's Lulworth down there, which is our destination. So we're going to go back on this side of the hill, I think. So hopefully not too many more ups and downs. That big hill there is where we've been. And that's the viewpoint. That lump up the top there is the viewpoint where we stopped to have a look at Durdle Door for the first time. So just heading back down now between the hills. So this is the valley behind the headland. Durdle Door's the other side of that big hill there, and we're heading down the hill on this footpath into West Lulworth. That's probably the end of the video, except when we get back to the car, we didn't find anywhere to sit down on these footpaths. There are very few benches and stopping places, and it's too damp to sit on the ground. So we didn't get to sit down and have our coffee and cake. I did buy a piece of Dorset apple cake alongside our pasties this morning, so we'll probably have that back at the churchyard when we get back to the car. We park quite near the church, so we'll probably stop in the churchyard and have our coffee and cake. So thanks for joining us on this windswept hike to Durdle Door today. I hope that's been interesting. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.